Omaima Aree Nelson.
Originally from Egypt, Omaima was a model who ritualistically murdered her husband on Thanksgiving Day 1991 with a pair of scissors, then proceeded to eat him for dinner. First, she cut him into pieces with an electric carving knife, then she boiled his hands to remove his fingerprints. She then deep-fried them, cooked his head in the oven and grilled his rib cage with some barbecue sauce. But why? As it turns out, her history included no small amount of sexual abuse. As a child living in Cairo, Omaima had been the victim of genital mutilation. As an adult, she was raped by her husband on the day of his murder. In mental and physical agony, she responded murderously.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Probably the most notorious American serial killer of the 20th century, Jeffrey Dahmer perpetrated all manner of graphic horrors on his victims, including gruesome medical experimentation and necrophilia. In addition to other body parts he kept as trophies, Dahmer ate pieces of at least one victim, keeping the remainder in his refrigerator for regular snacks. He may have even tricked an unknowing neighbor into consuming human flesh, freely giving her a sandwich of unknown composition. Or Jeffrey Dahmer, 32 of 130 famous American serial killers, 3 of 61 the scariest serial killers in history, 2 of 11 we asked, you answered. Which serial killer, living or dead, would you want to be pen pals with?
Gary M. Heidnik.
Heidnik was a serial killer and rapist who abducted at least 6 women, then held them captive in his basement dungeon before killing them. During that time, he would repeatedly rape and torture them both physically and psychologically. One method of which involved feeding his victims a mixture of dog food and the ground-up remains of the last woman he killed. Heidnik himself consumed some of his victims. Of the 8 he captured, 2 survived when they were rescued by police.
Alferd the Republican Cannibal Packer.
With a name like Alferd and a beard like that, you just knew this guy was to be a gold prospector from 1849. He left Utah for Colorado with a party of 5 other men. Months later, he arrived in snowbound Denver alone. He claimed the party had run out of food, and they had turned to cannibalism for survival. The judge who sentenced Packer didn't have much sympathy. When Ya came to Hinsdale County, there was 7 Democrats. But you, Ya, at 5 of 'em got 'em, Ya. I sentence Ya to be hanged by th neck until you're dead, dead, as a warden again reducing th Democratic population of this county. Packer, you Republican cannibal, I would sentence ya to hell, but the statutes forbid it.
William Buehler Seabrook.
Have you ever wanted to know what people taste like? Apparently, so did New York Times reporter William Seabrook. In the 1930s, after a cannibal tribe in West Africa piqued his curiosity, Seabrook obtained a bit of fresh human from a hospital intern and cooked it up. What do people taste like? Like tender beef, according to the journalist. It was like good, fully developed veal, not young, but not yet beef. It was very definitely like that, and it was not like any other meat I had ever tasted, Seabrook reported. It was so nearly like good, fully developed veal that I think no person with a palate of ordinary, normal sensitiveness could distinguish it from veal. It was mild, good meat with no other sharply defined or highly characteristic taste, such as, for instance, goat, high game, and poor calf. The steak was slightly tougher than prime veal, a little stringy, but not too tough or stringy to be agreeably edible. The roast, from which I cut and ate a central slice, was tender and in color texture.
Albert Fish.
Albert Fish was one of the most prolific and notorious serial killers of all time, a man so utterly evil, it's hard to believe he even existed. That Fish confessed to the murders of more than 100 children is only the beginning of the story. The fact that he was known to cut them up and cook them with onions, carrots, and strips of bacon is but the second chapter. It gets worse. Look up Albert Fish at your own risk. More Albert Fish. 41 of 130 famous American serial killers. 7 of 19 the creepiest Wikipedia pages. 9 of 61 the scariest serial killers in history.
The crew of the SS Dumaru.
The Dumaru was a wooden steamship launched on its maiden voyage in 1918 during WWI. Lightning struck the ship off the coast of Guam, igniting its ammunition and causing the ship to explode. The survivors on their 2 life rafts resorted to cannibalism to survive the 3 weeks they spent adrift.
Boone Helm.
The Kentucky Cannibal was a mountain man and gunslinger who lived in Old West Montana, and he died at 35 years old during the Civil War. Characterized as a serial killer by many, Helm made no secret of his fondness for human flesh. Living in the wilds of Montana, he killed and ate at least 11 people in survival situations. But after getting a taste for humans, he killed for food before entering the survival situation. "Many's the poor devil I've killed at one time or another," he said, "and the time has been that I've been obliged to feed on some of them."
The Donner Party.
Probably the best-known American cannibals of all time, the Donner Party set out for California in 1846. They ended up trapped in the Sierra Nevada mountains during a particularly harsh winter. More than half of the roughly 90 people in the party died, and there have been conflicting but reliable reports of cannibalism among some of those who made it through.
The crew of the whale ship Essex.
Herman Melville's Moby Dick was inspired by the sinking of a real ship called the Essex, the story of which is even more gruesome than that of Captain Ahab. The Essex was a Massachusetts whaling ship that sank after an attack by a sperm whale. The surviving crew members took to 2 small whaling boats and remained there for about 3 months before rescue. The survivors on at least one of the boats turned to cannibalism, and when they were rescued, it was said that the last 2 survivors had sucked the marrow out of a dead crewmate's bones.
Jamestown, Va.
During a period known as the Starving Time in the winter of 1609, all but 60 of Virginia's 214 colonists died from starvation. The people of the village resorted to digging up the frozen dead and eating them. The cannibalism wasn't limited to such scavenging, either. After the winter, one man was tortured into confessing that he had killed and eaten his wife.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the support and likes and comments down below, and also thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to see you in the next video. Then take care. Bye.